that.
Then again, I was the guy that was getting at school.
I heard about that when I first
Build a mansion.
started.
Build a mansion in Aspen. I want to talk about scope creep. You always underbid it to get the job. You make your money and change it.
She's kidding.
Whenever you're ready.
I'm working on it, I'm sorry. Okay.
It's a work session, so it's kind of laid back anyway. All right. Could we have roll call, please?
All right. Mayor Smith?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Valentine?
Here.
Trustee Stelter?
Here.
Trustee Schwartz?
Here.
Trustee Brunner? Trustee Check?
Here.
Trustee Hunter? Here.
I'm gonna turn this over probably to Corey, but I wanted to do just an introduction to this. So I kind of want to start from the bottom of the agenda packet in that the proposed, the examples of 50-50 programs in other communities. To me, you know, I really should have been at the end because I think that's something we want to look at after we look at what we have been doing. And do we want to do another $3? Do we want to put it on the ballot, blah, blah, blah. So I just wanted to maybe have you perhaps turn to page 15, which gets us past those examples. Not that we can't talk about them, but I guess what I wanted to know is how much has already been done out there. And that is on, where do you remember what page that's on, Sam?
Is anybody else connected? I'm getting, is it no connection?
I don't know.
With you.
Well, I am working off my hard drive though.
Right.
So maybe,
Corey had issues when he first started his, he had to close out and go back in.
It says, yeah, you did that already till last.
yeah,
Did you
Oh,
look
it
like
says I'm not
disconnect and
connected.
then reconnect to
Are you guys trying to connect to Comcast?
yeah,
Yes.
I'm connected.
I'm on to the secure top, and I'm fully connected, so I'm gonna take a look.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make sure the server's working.
Yeah, I'm working fine. I'm on time.
With Comcast.
Yes. Wait, I'm DCMH guest.
DCMH, yeah.
Spelled it Comcast.
Yes,
Nice.
that was the clinic or something, wasn't
What's that?
Oh,
it? Isn't that the clinic? Yeah.
That's the
The
clinic.
clinic's
No,
not-
I hook up to the Wi-Fi at my office, which is right there.
Oh, you are, yeah.
mhm. Well, I was on page 19 is an excerpt out of the 2020 budget, which gives a narrative of the sidewalk that has been fixed. And I believe, Corey, do you have on your map, would that show where it's done, it looks good?
I think it would show up as one of the areas that are pretty good known
Okay.
or anything, but
It looks like it's all up.
Because mostly so just as an explanation for folks that are new, this was on the ballot in 2014 and $3 has been collected since. And rather than only spend 30-some thousand every year, which would take up a lot of that would be taken up by mobilization, the money was held for a couple of years till there was enough to make it worth it. So in this case, this is saying, when did they start? 2019, there were a bunch of repairs made. And in 2020, maybe, see, I don't have this, maybe I'll turn it over to Corey.
I think there might have been a couple in 21 as well.
But not a bunch of big scale
No,
cleanup.
smaller.
Page 21.
And then right now we have about $104,000 in that budget amount. I think that's in the intro. Plus we have the rest of the year to collect, and it's generally been 32 to 34 a year
Yeah.
from that $3 fee. No, So, and then, this sunsets December of, I think it's the 31st, 2024. So we have to hopefully get some citizen input, as to whether, yeah, we are gonna be the citizens, I guess. You know, what to do. Do we want to do it again? Do we want to add the fee? Do we want to put it on, we have to put it on the ballot if we're going to continue. And we have to make our minds up with some ballot language if we're going to do that by August.
I would like to see August first because we'll also have to have a deadline to sign an IGU with Delta County, and as of right now, this is the only thing we would have on the ballot. So having it done by August first would make it a lot easier for me to coordinate everything with the county.
And get it on the November ballot, which is what it would be on. So I guess with that, do you all have any particular questions about that piece of this to this point?
I do have a question. On page 16 of the packet, about halfway down, it says the town does currently have a sidewalk grant for property owners in place whereby the town pays half the cost.
No.
And it lists an ordinance number. That's no longer in effect?
No, here's where you're reading from. I think
It's the letter from Barb Peterson,
Yeah.
but I was just wondering, like, that ordinance was, there was something that
I think,
overrode that or removed that?
I don't know, is she saying these are choices on that
You
page?
got choices.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please.
So I included that in there because I found it, because this is where the sidewalk fee initially came from. Barb had proposed it several years before the streets committee ended up actually taking it up and pushing through to put it on the ballot. Before that, I believe there was something similar to a grant program, like we had before this went into place, where they could apply to have so much reimbursed, but it wasn't effective for a lot of homeowners. They couldn't afford to get sidewalks done. And so I kind of just put it in there so you guys would know where it started. And, you know, because it's been there for 10 years, but a lot of people don't know where it started. So I'm not entirely sure exactly what the ordinance was before that whole thing, but whatever it wasn't working. I know that much.
I just wonder if it's still officially in place or if it's been, whatever the language is, repealed or. Because if one of the things we're considering is a 50-50 proposal and there's an ordinance in place that does exactly that.
I think it's there. Can you double check?
I'm looking right now.
I don't think it is, but
I think that was repealed when they did the sidewalk.
Oh, okay, okay.
And the thinking in that time, I remember the debate, was that people could not afford to fix their sidewalk. Mostly because one, there was a building permit fee, a sidewalk fee.
Mhm.
Second of all, you had to bring somebody in and the mobilization is high. It'll cost a couple $100 to get somebody in there because they're gonna come in with a skid steer, break it up. And then you have to dispose of the concrete. It used to be that we disposed of it at behind the river park was the concrete place. And they would take it, they'd crush it up, and then they'd use it in concrete, which is great, but we no longer have that option.
We're currently doing that out at the wastewater ponds. We've got a spot for spoils.
Okay.
And then once it gets big enough,
You bring-
his goal is to get a crusher out there to do that.
And
it used to
that,
be easy to take it right where,
Right there.
where Joe's serving food now.
actually, it was behind the river park. So anyhow, most people can't afford this. The costs on here, they say $110 per yard for concrete. It's now in the range of $300. So a cubic yard of concrete, our sidewalks, I believe our ordinance is 4 inches, except where there's driveways and whatever. That has to be 6 inches with reinforcement because people drive on it, it'll break a 4-inch slab in a heartbeat. It's gonna cost because there's 27 cubic feet in a cubic yard. And multiply that by 4, you get about 100 square feet of surface, the 3 inch.
And there's a memo in here from Corey. He had an estimate. Just not sure what page it's on. Sorry. He was trying to give us as close of a current estimate as he could.
reach out, it's right around the 250 to 260 range per cubic yard.
What was that again?
It's about 250 to 260 per cubic yard currently.
That's figuring at least nine yards.
And yeah, that's a 4 yard minimum.
Yeah.
So, and depending on where we get that price fluctuates based on whether we're getting it from Montrose or Delta or, we pay pretty much by a mile to get it here, so.
I just want to let everybody know it's on page 25 is where Corey's memo starts. Sorry, Corey, go ahead.
Oh, you're good.
So everybody can have it in front of them. That's why I would have.
Yeah, and that's consistent with some of the local contractors I've talked to about prices they're seeing getting delivered to this area as well, so.
And the thing is, to pour four yards of concrete, you pretty much need half a block of full. Most of our sidewalks don't need to be all ripped up and redone. We need to patch 2 squares, 2 3-foot by 3-foot squares, five of them maybe. And I think that would be a major problem. First, you got to set up your forms, and you're gonna have to leave them there for a couple of days, and then you have to bring in the truck. And having poured a lot of concrete in my career, I would hate bringing in even 6 yards and trying to pour it, and it's all scattered around the town. It would be a nightmare, and we probably lose it mostly because the travel time is way too long for concrete here. But if they put the water to it in the plant and it gets here, it's forming up on the chute, it's setting now.
Well, we get it from United in the past.
Yeah, but it's 35 miles. And in a half an hour, it's turned.
Yeah, it starts to harden.
Yeah, I'm from the people Hotchkiss, so it wasn't that far. Is that not correct,
Or not.
Corey? Is it coming, United's is further
So
out?
Hotchkiss don't no longer do.
Okay, so because it had been.
That is all from Delta or Montrose.
One of those trailer mixers, you know?
Yeah, well, there's another option. There's a $2,000 mixer that you hook up to a hose and an electric cord, and it'll pour out 3 yards an hour. And that's a lot. And you use Sacrete. And it's a possibility if we can afford it. It would be the way that we could do curb and gutter, we can do sidewalk repairs, and they can do it. You have to do it for a day,
Yeah.
but you don't have to do it for a long time. So you could fix a block at a time and probably get it done efficiently. And we could do it so that our men aren't tied up for a week. So we can get 6 yards done or 2 weeks. Now, we still have the problems of all of our pans to get, the handicap pans to get down into the street. We still have those. That takes a little skill.
I found, sorry, a sidewalk rant.
Okay.
So it wasn't an ordinance, and that's why it's not codified. It was a resolution. Hey, Sam, I found it. It was a resolution in 2007. So that's why we couldn't find it. So it says, yeah, the town of Paonia will reimburse so it's a reimbursement program. Will reimburse real property owners with the town of Paonia 1/2 the cost of them for concrete used to repair sidewalks in the public right of way or adjacent to their real property, up to $500. That's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, this
And it
is,
was only concrete, not labor.
and it was just concrete,
Yeah,
correct?
so it will eat your lunch. And
I'm gonna print this off so you all have a copy of this.
I have 75 feet of sidewalk in front of my house. About 40 of it needs to be repaired. The trees have lifted it. And it's been that way for 25 years.
Yeah, that happens around here.
Yeah.
That's
That brings up another.
Are you talking about moving up here?
Yeah.
Just, it's okay.
I'm not sure.
There's an empty
why-
seat right here.
Yeah, and that's right, Bill isn't gonna be here for this session, yeah, just because it might be a lot easier, because we really need your input. Thanks.
Corey, I'm curious how you feel about what Rick was talking about.
I'm good with kind of any option that helps us move forward, you know, I'm 100% willing to try anything. But my biggest concern is just with all the other issues with the water and everything. It's hard to dedicate 4 guys to one project that I don't end up yanking people from and sending them to go chase the next new problem, you know, so staffing size becomes somewhat of an issue. Obviously, trash days are a little harder to juggle because I have 3 guys running trash and for half the day, which it's still great that they're getting it done in half a day now instead of a whole day, but it's still just juggling the manpower is still, it worries me some, and concrete's one of those things, like Rick knows, if you order a truck and you aren't prepared, whether you accept the concrete or not, you're paying for it, you know? Yeah, so you better find a place for it, because if they have to take it to the yard, then you're still paying for it, you know? So scheduling of it is.
Which is why you like to do a lot at one fell swoop.
It makes it easier, yes, unless, you know, if we have a water break at the same time and they, you know, is it feasible that 2 guys can finish out a big pour? And, you know, I have to kind of keep that into consideration too. How much are they feasibly going to be able to finish and everything?
So are there kind of 2 potential ways to go about doing this? Is there a way to do it where we have our own cement mixer and do
Yeah.
small batches?
Small scale projects, I think that's an amazing idea. And when I say small scale, it's more like if you're doing, you know, 8 to 15 yard pours, like that's still a lot of bags that you have to handle.
How many blocks, how much would that be? Is that like 1 block?
No.
You can-
So if you took like 500 foot blocks, which is, I think ours are close to that, I don't know. 5 foot wide sidewalk, 5 inches thick, you're right about 40 yards.
And you said this one, how much in a day?
I would think anything over 12 is pushing it if you're hand mixing, or, you know, you're still hand humping all the bags. You're gonna have to bring water to wherever you're.
You're still taking a wheelbarrow,
Yeah,
trying to go.
well, I mean, there's machines that definitely, like the machine Rick mentioned, would definitely make it easier and more productive. It just, there's still. You gotta get it
3
there.
guys minimum.
Yeah,
To do it yourselves.
yeah. And, you know, contracting is always the more expensive option, no matter how you look at it. So I want to definitely get us to the point where we can do most of it in-house. I think we should be getting close to that once we're fully staffed.
So do you think it's viable to buy the equipment and do it as you can?
I think
As
it
opposed to
could
hiring a
definitely help.
contractor to spend
So part of the problem
$120,000?
we would run into with contractors is the prices always gonna change depending on what they have to do to get it all formed up. You know what I mean? If they have to come out and deal with tree roots and slopes and everything, you know, if it's something that we can prep out for a couple of weeks and then just pour it when we know we have enough guys, it would work better for us to do. If it needs to be done immediately, like it's a hazard and we have to get it done, it's probably better to contract that kind of stuff out, because it's more time sensitive, you know.
Isn't it ever an option, and tell me if I'm just out of my mind here, to bring in like temporary labor?
have no idea on that. That's,
What does that look like for the town? Is that difficult?
We have almost $100,000 in the sidewalk fund, and that would buy a lot of material, and it would also pay labor.
Yeah.
And we don't need a highly skilled labor, maybe one highly skilled finisher and somebody that's an apprentice, and then just somebody that can lift and tote.
Right, like I'm not advocating to contract it out, but just to hire temp.
Right.
yeah.
Hire 3 people for the summer.
So when we poured the new path at the town park, we actually kind of set it up that way. So the guys that came out to do that one kind of taught our guys as we worked through that. You know, we don't, none of us are finishers by any stretch of the imagination, and that's kind of the trickier part with some concrete. You know, you have to know when do I need to trial this? I mean,
So I've got, I want to answer that question. So the only way I could see us hiring temp labor is if we go through like a labor agency to do that. We also have to budget for it, which is something we can do. I think we even have some available in this year's budget if we wanted to go that route. But to Corey's point, we do need somebody who, you know, not only knows how to form, but also how to finish that concrete. And I think we're one of our newest hires. We've got somebody who might know concrete.
yeah,
Because we've poached from CDOT.
yeah.
So that's coming in. And then one of the implements that we could think about for mixing concrete, I know it's still Sacrete, you're still going to have to,
Yeah.
you know, do all that work. It's an implement for our Bobcat. So it's a mixer that just goes on the front, and then you can actually move that Bobcat to pour it
Yeah.
instead of trying to hump a wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
So
So, I mean, my guys would be okay.
you just need bio.
They're not afraid to do the work by any means. I think they're eager
We've
to
got a
make
very
a
good
difference here, so.
But this is for projects that are like smaller than a few yards at a time.
6 yards would be a big project.
Yeah, I mean, 12 is, you're talking probably a
That's
long day.
That's a 12-hour day there.
In my experience, you do runs in one day, and then you do intersections, so like a ramp, you do that in another day.
Yeah.
Because you have to follow ADA with slope.
1 and 12.
That's right. And then, you know, you're putting your early detection plates on. It looks like, I was really happy to see that we don't use plastic. Those are the little bump things at the ramps. We use metal, which is really good because we have snow plows.
Yes.
And so they tend to pop up if you use plastic with snow plows trying to come around the corner. So, you know, that's my experience. You do a run, and then you do an intersection or that ramp in 2 successive days. And then, you know, you've got to keep people off the concrete while it's curing. So there's that as well. So, and I think we can do it. I think we can do it.
Yeah, and then there is specialty forming involved too. Like to do some of the more rounded curves and stuff, we're gonna need more specialty setups to be able to form those in to do those. They're not outrageously expensive and they're reusable, but there is
We need to have our own
cost
form.
associated with that too. Most forms are reusable for quite a long time if you treat them good and clean them afterwards, you know, it's.
Is
The
it
other
a
thing
form?
is that we can only pour concrete in the summertime,
Yeah,
and we also have the parks.
yeah,
And maybe we could split the new hires for that.
Yeah.
And, you know, Rob from the parks, part-time, because we need somebody to irrigate, we need somebody to mow lawns, and we're tight on people now. You got just about as many people as you need in a regular time.
Yeah.
And then spring, we have breaks every year, and fall as well. But, you know, if we could hire a summer crew, and this is it, you know, you got, what, 120 days? We hire them for 120 days, college kids. I mean, that used to be the way I made my money when I was in college.
I was used to that at the mines. We got interns every summer, you know,
And the community college, they may have a construction program that we could maybe poach from, or they could use it as part of their curriculum.
Yeah.
and they could get credit for this. Concrete is not bad. The bad thing is that it's extraordinarily hard on the body. I can no longer finish because my lower back is shot. If I finish concrete, I'm gonna be on the couch for a week. So, but it's not hard to teach. It's not rocket science.
Okay, I have two questions. So my two questions are, why would we have to go through a temp agency? And my second question is it something that we could access the sidewalk fund this year to buy the equipment, even though it's not in the budget, but we know we have the funds to buy the equipment and hire the staff? And does it feel like, oh wow, we're already at June 4th? Are we asking too much to find the people to get it done? Or would it be better if like we do the planning for next year? So those are my two questions.
Yeah. Number one, I'll have to check on the language of the ballot initiative.
Here's the ballot initiative.
Before it was to say that, yeah, we can purchase equipment. And then I don't think the ballot was for new sidewalks.
Here's what it says, and this is why I'm not sure about if it's new or new, if you can do one that was not there before. Shall the town of Paonia, and I'm on page 5, shall the town of Paonia create a dedicated fund for the construction and maintenance of existing sidewalks within the town limits to be paid by utility bill in the rate of $3. Starting January 1, 2014, remain in effect December 31st, 2024. So that the construction and maintenance of existing, go ahead, Sam.
I was gonna say, I think if you look in our code too, under the thing that when they codified creating the fund, it's called the sidewalk replacement fund, I believe.
Okay.
We should double check that, but.
So that answers that you have to be fixing something already in place, but I don't know that prohibits buying equipment to be able, it's a dedicated fund for the construction and maintenance of existing sidewalks. If you buy equipment to do the maintenance, I don't know.
I mean, I agree with the intent, but without the comma, I mean, that could be read in multiple ways, construction
Well, that's.
and maintenance of existing.
But I think the way the code is written to replace, and that's where when we have a lawyer. When something to ask, would it help, with all this in mind, would it help if you saw projected where the sidewalks are the worst? I mean, is that too much to do right at the moment? Would you like to keep talking about alternatives? Or do you want to see a map that's been coded by good, bad, ugly, and oh crap?
There was one more question that I wanted to answer.
Sorry.
So my comment on going through a temporary hiring agency or labor agency is, number one, they would cover all of the cost of insurance. So like if somebody were to get injured on site, they would cover that cost. And so it wouldn't be dinging our CIRSA insurance program. And there's that blanket of coverage for liability that would be through that labor agency. Now, I have run programs in the past where we do have like the seasonal employees that come and they just work for a set amount of time and they're done. It was lifeguards in Florida and it was interns in Indiana. And, we covered them, but we had to cover them in our insurance through that season. In Florida, it was easy because we had the same lifeguards coming every year. We knew who to expect for about a 4-year period, and then they would cycle out because we graduate from college. In Indiana, it was a little bit different. I had to go by number of interns I thought I was going to have in that year. So there are different ways of doing it. My personal preference would be to go through a temp labor agency just for that extra liability. Unless CIRSA comes back and says it's going to be like $24 added to our bill.
Do we have a temp agency in
There's one in
I
Delta.
don't know.
There's one in Delta. Labor force.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
The thing is that I hired laborers on a job that I did in 2010. And laborers started at $25 an hour then. And it's been a significant amount of time. I would expect that it's probably in the $35 an hour range. And we could hire concrete workers for that here. And there are concrete workers here. Most of the guys I used and I worked with, they're retired now. and, they don't last. But it isn't, we could probably get somebody that would teach.
Good supervisors.
Yeah, we could get somebody to teach.
I do know a few companies that are willing to teach. I never asked them if it was something they would do long-term and what that cost might look to. I'm happy to reach out to them and
If we just
see if
had
they
a,
would be willing to assist with teaching us how to finish better. Because the hardest is just, I can't look at a pile of mud and tell you when we need to start. Yeah.
I do have, so the on the sidewalk replacement fund, although our code says there is hereby created a special fund to be known as the sidewalk replacement fund, and the funds therein shall be used only for the purposes allowed by law. That's exactly what the ordinance says, and so it doesn't say that it's specifically for existing sidewalk. Because this last part says the funds therein shall be used only for the purposes allowed by law. We need a town attorney bad to give a defense on this, but
well, and I would like to make a point
I
that
would posture that it would be like, we can do it, right?
if we made new sidewalks, I believe we would be lynched unless we have all the rest of it.
Replaced.
We'll be
Yes.
tarred and feathered.
Yep.
So,
Yep, I would agree.
That's why it originally went on the ballot.
Yes.
Because all of the sidewalks were horrible and homeowners couldn't afford to replace them out of their pockets.
And that brings up another entire hurdle is if you don't fix some of the trees or reroute the sidewalk, you're having this conversation again in 2 years,
The tree code does say that at the advice of the tree board, the town administrator can cut down any tree. I sure do. It'd be a very miserable place.
Gotta make sure it's.
A tree is the root cause of the issue.
yes.
You have to be willing to address both somehow.
One possible solution is that we do tree grates around the trees. I don't think cast iron ones are the way to go, but they do make plastic ones.
Do they stunt the growth of the trees?
No, they're grates, they have openings, so they actually let water go through. And the openings aren't huge, you can drive a stroller over or whatever. And they're sectional, so that when the tree does raise it up, you get a lump, but you can take it out and shave off the top of the root. Hopefully that won't kill the tree, but it works.
So I've also done meandering paths.
Yeah.
But that takes coordination with the homeowner.
Right.
If you're gonna start encroaching, which it's possible, we could do that. It would result in some sort of agreement between the town and that property owner, but we can do meandering paths all day long. There's also another product that I've seen, and it's normally in like urban areas, like Chicago has them. It's not a grate, it's more of like this almost permeable rubbery material that goes over that root system. And it creates a continuous path for somebody in like a wheelchair to just go over without any issue. So there are different materials that we can use that could also help aside from just a grate.
And it's made out of recycled tires, so it's kind of a good,
I do think too, though, that I read somewhere in the code, and I'd have to
it says cement.
think through it, that it specifies that we can only use concrete.
Yep.
So if that's truly the case,
We could
we
change.
can't
the
even
code,
really
yeah.
look into other options until that's fixed.
Was that in the appendix?
Right, is that in the construction?
Because I did find some neat stuff when I was at a funeral in Utah. They use blacktop around their parks because they have a lot of these same issues. It's cheaper repairs and
Yeah, so that could be that appendix, that construction appendix, so we can. Well, that in, who's looking at that for us? SGM?
respect.
We should just do that with them, yeah. So one of the other things I wanted to bring up in light of the trees is how we probably should do a layering. Because we had a tree inventory done about, how many years ago? 4 years ago? By one of the the state foresters, and she rated every single tree in the right of way in the parks.
Yeah.
So we do know the ones that she might have said, it's time for this one. So maybe we can take out a tree and eliminate that problem when it looks really bad, like it should go.
That inventory listed the tree that we took out in front of my house as adequate. And it was rotted clear to the roots.
Well, it's just, I just think we should look at it to see what she said.
Yeah, that's a good start.
Yeah, I
it's a
mean, at
very
least
good
do an
start.
overlay, which
So the
might be
one that we
possible.
dug up the road up on Third Street,
The
had a
trail,
big patch out. We had to take a big chunk of that route, you know what I mean? Because it was bulging up the road and it caused this weird dip that felt like if you went in it wrong, it was gonna shred with your sidewall on your tire, so. That tree has wreaked havoc on that sidewalk, and I don't know any fix that for the sidewalk or really the street for that matter that includes that tree.
So-
We also need to be really cognizant of the trees that we put in.
Yeah.
And we don't allow any more silver maples and God forbid Chinese elms. Because they just destroy the street. I've seen the Chinese elms up on Third. They've actually destroyed the curb and gutter and it's going under the street.
our code has trees that are okay.
They're
I don't remember
recommended.
what they are.
They're recommended.
But we don't have a program, do we? Does somebody have to come to us before they put a right of way tree in?
We need to have.
Right, we don't, I don't think we have a requirement.
So, we don't, so we don't do like a permit to trim a tree or cut a tree down or plant a tree. I've been in communities where those permits exist, you have to get a permit for everything like that. And I've been in, and they've even gone to even further to say, if you're gonna trim a tree, you must hire an arborist that says that it's necessary to trim this tree or take it down. We don't have a program like that. And I've also been in communities where, like I said, the only thing we specify are, hey, you cannot place a tree over a water main. You've got to offset it at least 3 feet, which root system's gonna get into. it.
Right.
But, there was at least some sort of protection for a few years while that tree's been planted, so.
We got a lot of stuff.
I feel like we're kind of in a predicament right now because 130, I don't feel like we're gonna have town support to put this on the ballot unless they see some results from it, from the sidewalk program. And it feels like, oh gosh, we're June, and if we have to have a decision made by August, it feels like our timing is really tight, given just everything that's going on right now. And so where I keep leading to is like, okay, let's say we have 130,000. That would take, we would easily use that up next summer between labor and equipment and all
Well,
of that.
that's the big thing. If you was to contract any of this out, most of them are gonna look at like half the dirt work and that they do have to do. Even make it work in some of these areas, and that's gonna eat up a large portion of that cost. 'Cause
See, and within this year's budget, I had planned to use that sidewalk fund for the Fifth and Grand realignment, to replace sidewalk that we're gonna have to demo and replace. That's gonna get carried over into 25, because we're not gonna be able to get it under contract until the end of this year.
So that's new, never heard this before. So explain.
It was in the capital improvement plan.
But I've not understood that you wanted to take all of the sidewalk and dedicate it? Is that what you're saying? All the
No, there was a portion of the sidewalk fee to go towards sidewalk replacement on Fifth and Grand.
Do you know how much that is?
I'll have to, I can.
Because we need to understand if we have any way to fix some of the worst stuff on our main, like Third and Second.
And we're hoping to get it done this year.
We have some issues on Grand as well, on the corner of Grand and Third. That ash tree has lifted that entire chunk. We had a small hole where they planted a tree, but we need to go back and cut a big hole.
Is that the Rio Bravo corner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's getting to be dangerous.
Part of the discussion has been to sort of gravitate towards having our own, I won't recapitulate the whole
Yeah.
discussion. Intuitively, that sounds like a good idea. just for sort of logistic and for lots of reasons. But I think what we gotta do is just a simple calculation of maybe a sample day's worth of work, contracted versus we do it. And a little bit of a problem there is how to split out the equipment purchase, but I mean, that could be done just to just to justify doing that, to the public.
Okay.
There'll be people
Yeah.
who will say, you know, who knows what. The other thing I was gonna say was, the tree board went around and around and around, and I could say that many more times. Around, about the whole sidewalk thing. That's where we started in 2018. And as I think everybody clearly understands, the tree roots, but also the rotting trees, the maples and the elms and the cottonwoods and all of those, a lot of them are in really horrible shape. And so the sidewalk and the tree thing is really tightly bound. But it impinges, the point here is something we gotta think about, we've gotta watch our flank. The idea of taking out the trees to deal with the sidewalk, which by all accounts is what you have to do when the trees are like they are. The kind of tree and the age and the condition and everything is enormously unpopular. We will get burned if we don't. I mean, there's ways to do it. You educate people and you put out a plan and all that. There are ways we can do it. We just have to be sure to do it. Because there are some people who will be very, very upset if we start cutting lots of trees down.
And go ahead. It was like, so that just happened on Onarga, right? There was more trees that had to be taken down. 50,000
For that
for that project.
Okay, so that would leave us about 80,000 left
Was
to
it
do.
just for the trees?
2 trees.
No. So
I'm sorry, I switched gears. So I went to how much we had budgeted for sidewalk repair for Fifth and Grand, it was $50,000.
And that was to come out of the total 130 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if it would help, Corey, if you walked us through this
Sure.
and kind of showed us where it's worse
Okay.
than others, and I'm gonna walk over and look at it too.
Yeah,
Just
so
get closer since I don't need it.
this is,
Originally, I was gonna move the things, but with the meeting right after, it needed a little.
so Jeremiah initially created us an app that we could use in the field to mark, you know, areas that there's bad issues. And you can see here.
So it's really a field too.
But, yeah. So obviously the corner here, we know the tree is causing a lot of damage to the sidewalk.
Is that third green?
Southwest corner. I wonder if I'm later, it's like red. There's no sidewalk. So if it's an emergency. And it's nice.
Yeah, I was wondering, where's my sidewalk tax go?
But the green, in a lot of the green areas, there is a lot of new, or they were sidewalks.
No, for the most part,
You know, it's
there's
just.
not enough traffic.
So what is it?
Hey, you guys, we have too many conversations going, can we stick with one? Because I feel like everyone's input's valuable, and I want to hear what Corey's saying.
So. The yellow triangles are.
Okay.
Looking for laser.
So, yeah, the green triangles are good, yellow triangles are fair, red is poor.
And these are trees.
Very poor, and the other ones are not available, so.
So
There's still some areas that haven't been collected yet.
So what we're looking at, just so everybody, the triangles are trees that have been rated, according to the legend, if you scroll up, tree inventory from 2020. What are the
Okay.
triangles?
So that, I'm sure he tried to set it up to where this would kind of give us that, is the tree causing the sidewalk issue type thing and what the tree shape is in, sorry.
Yeah,
So it looks like we didn't get very far with the sidewalk side of things, it's just kind of has the app, obviously all the sidewalk up here along Second, both sides of the streets is pretty deteriorated.
so if I could, so this gold
Yeah,
right there is that defects spalling,
yeah,
and it's spalling the term for sidewalk in bad shape.
yeah, it's basically crumbling apart.
And the gold is 25 to 50% of the surface is affected, the yellow is 25%, red is more than 50% affected.
Yeah, so you can see the south side
Yeah.
is all mostly failed. I mean, it's,
But they only got that far, there's a little bit up here,
yeah,
okay. So this is a nice layer for the trees, and then if you layer the sidewalk on top.
yeah,
eventually.
we can't export the shape files on that from this yet. We'll get it fixed, but it just takes some work.
Would it help, did you all have a chance to look at the SGM map in the packet? To see that, and maybe that might be worth projecting to look at.
It's really hard to see in the
Yeah,
package.
yeah.
That leads me to a quick question. So on the list from SGM, do we have totals on that anywhere?
Total of
You
the
know,
sidewalk that you
so-
helped.
Yeah,
I don't know if
exactly.
they totaled it.
Like totals for moderate and poor condition sidewalks?
I don't think there is a total in those tables. I don't think.
I mean, I didn't see any in the
recall.
packet.
So that list on 22 is actually the Pazer rate for the pavement.
Well, they use the phaser, or whatever, Pazer, but they applied it to the sidewalks.
This is, this map that's in here, this wasn't a budget, I was looking at that, so it's for road rating.
Well, that, and this is. So this is what was in SGM.
Yeah, so this is the Pazer rating for the streets. One is bad. It's one.
But so it must have been misplaced in the sidewalk section.
Yeah.
The way the sidewalk, because there is a table for sidewalks, which is what Lucy was just looking at.
Oh, the table is after the,
Yeah, so that, yeah, so that's street, and then it gets into the tables of the sidewalks, so maybe they give us, what was it? Sidewalk table.
they do have one, so if you go,
Oh.
you have the budget pulled up, it's in the budget book. Page 142.
Okay. And you were wondering if there's a total of the.
Oh, it starts 23.
Total is linear foot
Yeah.
of this much in poor conditions.
That would help to know how many $3 do we need.
Right.
It's in the agenda packet, start with page 23.
Okay.
There's actually a table of
Yeah.
sidewalk that says none
Yeah.
attached.
Sidewalk, attached, curb and gutter, vertical to face. And we have been doing some curb and gutter, I believe. Along, there's a really nice stretch of sidewalk that was fixed on Fourth. And they did do curb and gutter because there's no strip, there's no dead strip. It's sidewalk into curb and gutter, and it really looks nice. And then there's another big bunch done on, I can't think of the name, but it was only sidewalk because they had a dead strip for a buffer. So to me, that's the other thing you have to think about. Are we doing, if we do some sidewalks that don't have the L strip, then you gotta do the curb and gutter too, probably, which makes it more expensive. for that.
Right, you're going down what below frost for the gutter,
Yeah,
so you're going at a little higher depth, a better depth.
yeah.
of the gutter.
But like on my street, you wouldn't have to do the curb and gutter because it's in good shape, but some of the sidewalk could need some help, but we have the L strip between the curb and gutter and the sidewalk, so the curb and gutter is okay. But the sidewalk, there's 4 feet between the curb and gutter and the sidewalk.
We might not need to replace curb and gutter though, worse. So the chart says detached or attached.
Right.
And that's meaning to the curb and gutter.
And that's,
We may not have to do it. If we can take those panels out without damaging the curb and gutter, we could pin,
it's attached.
right? We could do a pin and pour. So you could put in, that's just doweling in steel rebar and then pouring, so it
That
connects.
saves some money.
But taking those.
Some of our curb and gutter in those areas are garbage.
Replacing that and having another surface that's impermeable will add to our stormwater runoff. And it's coming, folks, that we're gonna have to treat our stormwater, at least have a settling pond and then meter it into our sewage. I'm assuming that's where it would go, or we build another facility.
We don't want combined sewer.
No, we're not gonna combine it.
Okay.
No, no, we have a settling pond and then we meter the water into the outflow.
So what we're designing at Fifth and Grand is is we're doing treatment, but it's like land treatment going into the river. And so it goes over, doesn't just spill right away. There's like catch basins and, ways on its way to the river. And so that's the kind of treatment we would do. But what will come late in the next couple of months, I'm hoping to have a strategic planning session before our budget. And I'm going to ask to consider us starting a stormwater utility.
Great.
So,
Just because the cost of Fifth and Grand, the stormwater alone is incredibly expensive. So.
what, there's a couple things that are coming to my mind right now. And one is I don't, thinking about if we did decide to put this on the ballot, if we combined it with trees and said that these are gonna be hand in hand, like it's a tree/sidewalk fund, because we may have some more reception to that, like they have to go hand in hand. And in my mind, I raised it to $5, but whatever, 3, 5. But if we had 80,000 as our, after the 50,000 that goes into Fifth and Grand, 80,000 that we really could start planning where it's a joint effort, tree board, it's like all you guys, so that, and then if we had 30 to 40,000 a year that we could work from, we could start making some real measured progress, because we would know that we would have 30 to 40,000 each year, and there would be a plan in place, like we're gonna tackle this section. I think what the citizens need to see is that there's a plan in place, and it's just not like, oh, great, that's going to fund their big vacations or, things like that, all that misconception. There has to be a solid plan, and that would be, I think, if we're gonna get this passed, we gotta be able to clearly communicate what we wanna do. Otherwise, I say if we can't do that, we gotta put it on hold and have something very measurable and demonstratable. But I'd hate to take that fund away, that 80,000, that pot, because then if we did get it on the ballot again, then we start from 30,000. And does that make sense?
It does. So, because I see where you're going with this, where it could be hand in hand. There could be circumstances where we just cannot keep a continuous sidewalk and keep this tree alive, right? So if we have to remove it, even if we try to do a meandering path, it's just, we can't do it. But now there's a fund, this fund can also do replanting. And we're not talking seedlings, we're talking, something that's,
4-inch caliber.
yeah, something with a hefty caliper to it.
Yeah.
That we can put in. That might actually work. And the thing is that you'd be putting on staff before December, right, before this ballot, to get a plan in place so that then present it. I think that's doable,
Yeah, and
especially with Nikki coming.
I even hate to bring up the tree things, because I love the trees in this town, as anybody knows here.
Like the one in front of my house.
But I always feel like if I mention them, then all of a sudden I'm the villain, and it is a touchy subject, and I will do everything I can to try to save as many as we can, but the unfortunate reality is that some of them are causing way more problems than.
The majority of the silver maples in town are at their senescence. They're ready to die. They were planted pretty much at the same time as the park was. I think they got a whole bunch of silver maples in from the state forestry and they got them for free and they planted them. But we haven't replaced them, and that's where the problem lies. And we need a variety of trees as well. I grew up in Wisconsin where we got Dutch elm disease, and all the elms went all at once in 5 years. And these were trees 6, 7 foot in diameter. And then they were 110, 120 foot tall, and now they're gone. And it was, the town changed its entire character in a matter of like 3 summers. So,
And so, no, can we agree that box elders were a pain?
yes,
But really, I like where this is going, because I think that's the intent of this workshop, is to find a way to say, hey, we want this sidewalk fee, and how do we get the voters, our residents to say, yeah, we want this. Right now, we have no mechanism for helping somebody remove a tree, trim a tree, or replant a tree. We have no mechanism.
Yep.
And by saying, hey, we want to adjust this sidewalk fee program to include the maintenance and replanting of trees, as well as extending sidewalks that don't already exist for safe routes, right? I think that could be something people could get behind.
But I think it's gonna take a lot of money. I mean, even $5, people are gonna balk,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
No, I think we
Yeah.
absolutely need something like that, but I don't know if continuing
communicate
fee
with-
gets it.
Right.
The public, that if we don't do something, there's the jeopardy of the tree falling on your house.
Well, but that's a whole nother, I feel like it's it's really important because there are people in town who have had their trees cut down and the town's paid for it. But there's other people who can't afford to have their tree trimmed and we're not offering to pay them. So I feel like it needs to be well thought out because we cannot do this unfair.
Absolutely. And so that's why my go-to is no, because we have no mechanism to help. But that's why.
But we've already done it.
Coming to,
Didn't we trim those trees on Third and pay for it? $6,000.
you're right. The difference there was that it was encroaching on the public right of way and presented a health or safety hazard.
The ground, the canopy?
The camp, yeah. So they were already, some of those branches were already hanging down in the biz. We call those widowmakers.
Right,
So,
but there's other trees in town that are bad.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we're not offering to help those people. So I'm really quite concerned that we really need to think this through
And it would
because
be
we're gonna
better.
have people screaming.
So
that
I
we're being
do have
selective.
residents ask me all the time, is there any help available from the town? And it's always like pretty much no, unless it's a huge hazard to like somebody else going by, then I have to do something. That's all
Yeah,
I can do.
But
if
this
the
is
trees are
wonderful.
trimmed, this will eliminate a lot of this hanging branches, we could set up a program.
Well, but the problem is, how do we fund it?
How do you fund it?
And do we do a 50-50? But anyway, go ahead.
But what I was thinking about is not so much go where you expanded it to, but we use that tree fund only for the side, like this, it's like only for the sidewalk. So if we're gonna do this block of Second to whatever, it's just to be, okay, well, let's make sure these trees are in place, like if we have to cut something down, if we have to replant, that's what it's for, that it is working hand in hand. Although I do like the idea of the 50-50 split, if there was a pot of money for that, but I was more thinking just sidewalk trees and not all of the trees in town, perhaps. But it could be that, but I do understand.
So that strict adherence to, hey, if it's affected by a sidewalk, and that makes complete sense. So maybe that's one piece, but the second piece that we also have in these packets is that 50-50 program that we don't have right now. So, and we do have a lot of residents coming to us that want to replace the sidewalk in front of their house and, want some sort of assistance from the town. And I don't have a mechanism to do that. And so I think both of these might go, let's say the ballot initiative passes and we're able to adjust some language, I think it would be appropriate at that time to also implement a 50-50 sidewalk program in one ordinance. So there are people that might want to be higher up on that list, if this is our list of sidewalks that we're start replacing, they want to be bumped up higher in that list for the property that, If you want to help pay for it, then move it up.
Is there a way to do what Lucy originally asked, which is, can we do a map? Because we have this table from SGM, and it could be informed by what was started by Jeremiah. Because I think we need to tell people how much sidewalk needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own anecdotal thing, but I feel like if we could do, take this table and maybe, because there's a bunch here. It's saying Fifth at Box Elder to Grand is fine. It's saying Sixth North Fork to Orchard is fine. Now, I don't know if that's true.
So that's probably pre-existing. I know Fifth Street has entire sections with no sidewalks, so.
Right, and this, but this is saying Fifth Street from Box Elder to Grand.
Yeah.
So it's saying all of Fifth. Is that saying it's no sidewalk? Okay, so let's look at this differently. It's got east, let's say Main Street, first to second, and I'm on page 24. It has east side detached, vertical, yes, poor.
Yep.
West side detached, poor. So I almost feel like if we could start a table and a map to go with it that shows where we know we have sidewalks that need to be fixed, because until you know the extent of the problem, it's hard to keep spending money on it. So is it possible to do that? So,
Absolutely, yeah.
so we have a visual and a linear maybe?
Yeah.
And as a small addition to that, when it does come time to involve public, maybe, you know, when they're not on Marble Market.
Yeah.
Is showing what we've done. I heard that all the time
Yep.
in the meetings, and I see it in, is it, what page that was on, if it was from Cory or.
Yeah, it's out of the 2022 budget and it's.
Yeah, where
and it's
it
just
talks kind of
narrative.
piecemeal, like we spent this amount of money in this year, this amount of money in this year. But to be able to show that in a map or quantify it,
Yes,
I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
That we haven't just been, you know.
That should go
negotiations
in
on
the
sidewalk.
packet.
yeah,
That should
map.
go into the packet for the vote, that this has been done and we're planning to do this. But the reason we're not is because of mobilization cost. And if we bought, say, a jackhammer for the skid steer,
So we have it.
you have one, okay? Well, that's half of the battle,
Yeah.
breaking it up, because I would love to have a business to do sidewalks in this town. Because I'd have a job for the rest of my life.
Oh, yeah.
And it would work.
What?
Yeah. I'm not gonna live that long.
I didn't hear that. La, 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 la. Anyway,
No, I won't do it as long as I'm on the council.
I know, I'm kidding.
Sure.
but
Yeah.
this is a start, what they have here.
And this inventory is pretty good, but it also goes by block. And a lot of this, just a couple of sections are bad.
Right.
If we could get those sections up and put in some forms, which aren't much, we could get those metal edging forms, for
Yeah,
metal edging.
That's what I was.
Yeah.
Because they'll do curves, they'll
Yeah,
do.
it's perfect
They
stuff.
help with
It's
the
cheap.
ramps, you can lower them.
And they have those stakes, you just turn the stake around so it doesn't hook over the top.
Yeah.
And it'll drive down and hold it in place, but you gotta brace it so it won't tip out.
Yeah.
But that kind of thing could be done, and if you're doing 12 feet, that's not much, 2 guys could do that in an afternoon.
Yeah.
Dig it out and probably get it done, maybe a whole day.
So it sounds like we want to move forward with trying to get this back on the ballot. But the bigger question is presenting it. And so are you able to get somebody to do this? I mean, do you have the time to have somebody, or do we need to put this on Respect's plate? Because, we're talking a 30-day turnaround here.
These next few weeks are gonna be rough.
Right, so
I can,
I almost feel like Ashley with SGM could get this done very quickly, or Brandon.
they probably can, and I can ask, SGM is gonna be out tomorrow, marking those,
Michael?
yeah.
Oh, no, Carl,
Yeah,
for the subsurface.
so I can ask them how long of a project that is for them to run around the pit and what the cost might be, I can.
So all they need to do is take their existing asset inventory and make it into a map.
Yeah.
And I think that would and if they can do it in a GIS layer that we could pop up and make changes to as we continue improvements, I think that would be really helpful. I would, so Corey, rather than have our student house, I know we're capable, I just don't think we have time. I would rather ask SGM to do this, because I know that they can get it done probably for under $2,500.
Yeah.
And that's something we can, I can't use sidewalk for, but I can find money for, to get that done.
So again, I think we'd like to see it mapped, but also totals, just on the square feet.
Well, and we might get, a deliverable from it that we can incorporate and keep up with one of the apps through both of them, because they incorporate together the learning field and update something. It'll go on the map, so.
Trustee Hunter, what was that? What totals on what?
So they have that, not in the map, but in the chart where they list out the condition of the sidewalks, whether it's poor, very poor, moderate, total lineal feet.
Okay,
of sidewalk per condition.
perfect. Okay. So that's something that we can ask them about doing that total linear feet and making sure we got it. Okay. That makes sense.
Do you want to show where there is not sidewalk as well?
I think they need to.
Yeah, I
Right?
feel like-
So maybe that's a gray color or
We should
something.
show where there is none, because there's a lot of none
Yeah.
on here. And if people, because people are saying, I didn't have a sidewalk in front of my house, how come I'm paying $3 fee? Well, because everybody wants on the sidewalks is the answer, but, people might like to have a sidewalk, which is gonna cost more, which is a lot,
How
but in a
many-
new
I know
sidewalk.
Paige was there, how many outs did the walk on it? Like, there's
the
actually a lot
safe
of
route to
crosswalks that
parks.
go to nothing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's kind of, I don't know what we got going on here, but it's there.
And one of the things too is developers have to put in curb and gutter as a part of development. We've let it slide for too long, starting with Apple Valley. There's no curb and gutter and those roads are falling
Right.
apart now because of that. And there's no sidewalks, so we end up paying for it in the end. And yeah, the developer can make his house more profitable, but we need to get that infrastructure in.
is that in our code now?
Sure is.
PUDs.
It's not just us, it's in our construction design standards.
Yeah.
So is this a start to get a map with lengths by however the rating system is with SGM? If we had that to start with?
Yeah, and I can coordinate with them, see what their turnaround time on something like that is, and if they can't get to it,
Well, I'll just ask Brandon to get it done in 30 days. And so here's your budget, it's $2,500, just get it done. He'll get it done.
Yeah.
I have faith that he'll have somebody get it done.
But we may not get totals linear foot of sidewalks because here they just list which side of the street it is and poor, bad, whatever. And I know for a fact that we could repair 12 feet here and 8 feet down the line and get a whole block done.
Yeah,
And we'd get a lot more done, a lot more bang for the buck that way.
I think that if rather than go and Google everything, if we just said, hey, look, a Google Earth, just kind of cursory thing would work for our needs, that could be helpful, because what we're talking about right now is starting the conversation with our residents to say, hey, look, this is why we need to continue this. And yes, we plan to do this work. It's just, now we want to prioritize it, right? And so
one of the things.
the visuals.
Like is we can still run around with our app and plug the points in that this is
There you go.
critical, and at least that way they're on there too.
Yeah. And that would be good if we had that on a GIS overlay.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that the biggest argument for this is, okay, we'll take the money we have collected and we will fix as much sidewalk as we can. We'll bring in a company and they're gonna fix 4 blocks. And then after that, it's 50-50. You guys gotta pay it. And everybody that's got a sidewalk that's destroyed is gonna go nuts because you're talking $10,000-$15,000.
To be split 50-50?
No, that's your share.
And that's if you had to do your whole sidewalk. I mean, some people could just do their 4 foot.
There's a lot of
See.
places you can do just a square.
Yeah.
And there's 4 foot by 4 foot, and that's the way I would prefer to do it. But we also have to watch, the biggest thing is that like for alley access where the sidewalk goes there. And who pays for that? Is that the cities? And it has to be a minimum of 6 inches, probably 8 with reinforcement put in. Because otherwise the garbage truck going over it the first year would be gone.
I really need some of those.
And there's, yeah, some of the alley accesses are horrible.
Yeah, oh my gosh. So do you think you can get everything that's been done on that same SGM map based on what you have the narrative here? And if I find the ones that I actually had I'll find it again, because I do have, it was in another budget where they actually said where it is and how
You
many
actually
feet.
even gave me a copy.
I know. And I'll find it again. I just couldn't do it under duress. But if we can do that, yeah, because it was Friday. I don't know where it is. So, and so if we could get that on the map too, with some photos, because the fourth looks really good, and so does whatever that street is. They did a bunch on, I think it's Onarga. It looks really good.
Pretty good, like, we do have some good sidewalks.
Yes.
They're hidden by a lot of bad sidewalks.
Do we also need, like John, you were suggesting a comparison of what it would cost if we were to buy the equipment, hire temp people to do it in-house versus hire a contractor? Is that something you can give us a comparison?
I can try to get those together, so.
Or even SGM?
Some of the contract companies, like, don't just give you a price and this, they want to come look at it because they need to know what they're getting into, as, if the more labor they have to do to get their forms in, and more
It's gonna
they're
cost.
gonna charge you, so.
We put out an RFP. I mean,
We should.
we don't have to take them. I mean, it's a little dishonest, but here's the deal. That's part of contracting, is you spend months doing estimates, and you don't get a third of them.
We have a lot of local contractors here. I think some of them would come give us pretty honest opinions,
Because I guess it would help if we knew where we wanted them to do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I can just pick some of the worst spots and what would you charge to fix this, and some of them might not be any interested if it involves a tree that they don't think they can work around. They'll tell us that, and at least we will know contractors probably won't touch this, so I will try to reach out this week and have what I can to you guys.
Well, and maybe that's what we need to just do with what's money's left. Let's just get something done this year. I mean, doesn't it seem like it would look better if we were getting something done with the money we do have?
So one of the things that we could do, one of the most highest priority things is fixing every ramp down Third Street. Or installing ramps where we actually have people in wheelchairs, and they're across the street, there is a ramp, but at their house intersection, there is no ramp. Right. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. So, and I apologize to her every time I see her. So, I mean, that could be something we could do, just fix our ramps, and
Maybe
that's something very visible, and could be something that we, no, it's cricket. But that could be something that we do. But we can't make the decision here.
Right.
And can I read an email? I'm writing to SGM about this map. I want to read it to you guys to see if I'm on the right wavelength. The town sidewalk fee sunsets at the end of this year. The board is interested in a new referendum vote to repair crumbling sidewalks, but we need to be able to visualize the conditions of sidewalks. I'm hoping that SGM can use the asset inventory and capital improvement plan that you put together in 2021 to make a map of the conditions of sidewalks in town. We need a pretty quick turnaround of 30 to 45 days so that we can present it to our residents. So,
Do we need a public hearing to put this on the ballot?
oh, yeah.
yeah.
Well, we might need another work session.
Yeah,
We're gonna.
because once we have this map, you're going to need to see something, right? So we need a pretty quick turnaround of 30 to 45 days that can present it to our residents, and would hope that it could be a GIS layer that we can use in perpetuity as we make repairs to sidewalks in town.
Do you want to ask for length, estimated lengths
Yeah.
of each of the
Very
total,
conditions.
good, bad, ugly, or whatever it is.
We also need to see the total linear feet of each condition.
Good, moderate, good and moderate, what's the other one?
Poor,
Poor. And then,
moderate, poor, and no sidewalk.
yeah, no sidewalk. And then would you be able to put the ones that were recently done on top of that? If,
I think so.
because they did this in 21. Oh, they were all done, I think, in 21. So they may already show up as good, but maybe a way to identify what was done with the money collected since twenty
I
fourteen.
think so, yeah.
Could you do that on top of what they give us? That'd be great
Yeah.
for people to see that.
The hardest is when I map stuff with my phone. It only has 5 meter accuracy, so for me to put a crack on there, it's this area, you know,
So I'm gonna fire this away.
Yeah, I think
So-
that's good.
but yeah, I will try to get it as accurate as I can on there. It just might not
Do you
be.
have an handheld GIS?
Not yet.
So our phones will
That's what you're
do
using.
GIS, but we don't have anything with any kind of survey grade at all.
So we did get the Water Smart grant, and as part of that, we put in for survey, a Trimble unit.
Right.
So an R2, I think,
Yeah.
now it's like R4s.
Yeah,
And we'll be able to start GPSing things as we go, so.
okay, that was a lot
Yeah.
better accuracy than.
I just can't buy it yet because I don't have a finalized contract with FedEx, so. Can't buy it, or it's not reimbursable.
If
Not
you
gonna
buy
make
it,
it.
stay.
Yeah,
And that one, we have to put out an RFP for somebody.
for sure.
But that's 10 grand.
Cool.
With all the pieces.
Well, look, I didn't know if we'd go till 7. We're gonna.
So it sounds like it might be right that we're not in favor of a 50-50 for sidewalks.
That's a possibility. We could use the pool of money and say that we will fix sidewalks at 50-50. And here's the pool, and there's no more money after that. And then after that, we're going to, you bought it, you fixed it, it's your house. Because that's the way it is in almost every other place I've ever lived. They don't contribute.
One of the potential ordinances is one I'm very familiar with because it's from Albion. And so it is a 50-50 sidewalk program. It put a lot of responsibility on the town administrator, town manager, to not only collect a list and to prioritize those residents, then to also see if the person that's next on the list is interested before we go out to bid for each project. And even gives timelines, like you're gonna do, this is gonna be done by the end of February. We're gonna go out to bid in March, and then, so. And you're on the list only if you hand us a check, for your half, and so.
And to me, that's another discussion during
Right.
another work session, I guess, because we can't vote during the work session.
Yeah.
But right now, it's whether or not we're gonna do a ballot. And if but anyway, I mean, we don't really have much time to decide that and create the language. But that doesn't mean we couldn't get on another ballot. We can do a special election in April, can't we? 2025?
It would just mean that this existing one would go away and you guys would, I bet you're still
Start
gonna
from
have to do the
scratch.
same thing. Showing what they're gonna get for their dollar and convincing them to pay for it.
Which is probably a little tougher, I don't, anyway, but so if we let it lapse, we can still come back with something. If we're all feeling a little like, I don't know what to do. But I've not had a single person talk to me about any of this. Has anybody else?
I just
Any-
had a conversation with Bobby Reed.
Oh, you did?
Yes, and his thing was, it's the curb, it's not the sidewalk, because in 91, he dug up that entire part in front of his gas station and redid it. And they redid the curb as well, but people are running into the curbs when they park diagonally, and it breaks them off.
Yeah, somebody came in and asked if that curb could be, the curb there could be fixed in front of Reedy's at a meeting, now that say that.
It's an ongoing problem. It's been happening for the last 10 years. And the other thing was it wasn't attached to the pan of the gutter. And I think that's probably what needs to be done. We pin it both down and then into the ends.
So you saying it's running underneath the curb?
Yeah.
Okay. We need to
There
look
was
at that.
nothing
Corey.
there.
We need to look at that.
Yeah,
He's got underground storage tanks. So
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we need to look at
That's not good.
Well,
If you'd like, I'm gonna adjourn this meeting so everybody can take a break, just to go to the bathroom, and we'll start up again at 7. If everybody's good with that?
Thanks,
Okay,
Corey.
thanks, everybody.